Hello students, my name is Shayan Mitra. I am the faculty member of Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering of Greater Kolkata College of Engineering and Management. Today I am going to taking the class of signal system. Today's topic is the properties of Z transform. In the previous lecture we have given a brief description what is a Z transform is and what is the difference between the Z transform and Laplace transform. We also described what is the basic formulas and the definition of Z transform, why we use Z transform, and what is the basic of region of convergence. And today we're going to continue with those description, and we're going to give some few examples to understand the whole area of Z transform. Okay, so let's begin with the lecture, and this is the lecture number 24. The subject code is EC303. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, so as we have discussed earlier, is what is a stable system? A system is said to be stable if k is equal to minus infinity to plus infinity summation of mod h of k is less than infinity, which means that a bounded input will not yield an unbounded output. What is a causal system? A causal system is one in which changes in output do not precede changes in input. In other words, if x1 of n is equal to x2 of n for n less than equal to n0, then transform of x of 1 n is equal to transform of x of 2 of n for n less than n0. Linear shift invariant systems are causal if h of n is 0 for n less than 0. Okay, so let's go with the next slide. The region of convergence for a given discrete time transfer function is a disk or annulus which contains no poles. Okay, now in general the region of convergence is not unique, and the particular region of convergence in any given case depends on whether the system is causal or anti-causal. So this specific statement can be understandable with specific examples. So now if we go through this again, we can easily understand the region of convergence is not about the region or part where the specific frequency spectra of the specific signal is existed. Okay, so this specific spectra is not existed. The point or the region where that specific spectra doesn't exist, that's the point where we would like to use the word the system as region of convergence. So the region of convergence for a given discrete time transfer function is a disk or annulus which contains no poles. In general, the region of convergence is not unique, and the particular region of convergence in any given case depends on whether the system is causal or anti-causal. Now if the region of convergence includes the unit circle, then the system is bounded input and bounded output stable. So in case of a system, if we need to understand the system is bounded input and bounded, or it means we would say BIBO, the bounded input or bounded output system, then the region of convergence should be a unit circle. So this is the criteria to understand a system is stable or not. And if the region of convergence extends outward from the pole, the region of convergence extends outward from the pole, okay, with the largest but not infinite magnitude, then the system has a right-sided impulse response. So now what is really it means that the region of convergence extends outward from the pole. So if the region of convergence extends outward from the pole with the largest magnitude, then the system has a right-sided impulse response, and if it goes on a different path, then it is known as the left-sided impulse response. Now, so let's understand this with a few pictures. Okay. Now, if the region of convergence extends outward from the pole with the largest magnitude and there is no pole at infinity, then the system is causal. And if the region of convergence extends inward from the pole with smallest non-zero magnitude, then the system is anti-causal. Okay. Okay. So yes, from the pole, yes. Okay. So we're going to understand with few examples also. Don't worry. Yes. Now, if you need stability, then the region of convergence must contain the unit circle. And if you need a causal system, then the ROC must contain infinity and the system function will be a right sided sequence. Okay. Okay. Now, if we need stability, then the ROC must contain the unit circle. If you need a causal system, then the ROC must contain infinity and the system function will be a right sided sequence. Okay. So let's go to the next slide. Now, if you need an anti-causal system, then the ROC must contain the origin and the system function will be a left sided sequence that we have already discussed. Now, next. Now, if you need both stability and causality, all the poles of the system function must be inside the unit circle. The unique x of n can then be found. So, these are the three pictures. So, in the last three typical in this last three side, we have discussed what is the system stability and causality can be extracted from using the Z transform property. Okay, so let's again go through that. So first one, if the ROC extends outward from the pole with the largest magnitude, there is no pole at infinity, then the system is causal. Okay, and because at the pole it is not been converged. Okay, but at the zeros the point will be converged. Okay, now the system is causal. The ROC system extends inward from the pole with the smallest magnitude, then the system is anti-causal. Next one is, using the picture you can understood that if you need stability, then the ROC must contain the unit circle. This is the region of convergence. Okay, it means the zeros will be expected to be exist in this place. Okay, now if you need a causal system, then the ROC must contain infinity and the system function will be a right sided sequence. This is the right sided sequence example. Okay, okay, the next one is, if you need an anti-causal system, then the ROC must contain this part opposite. This is the ROC must contain the origin and the system function will be a left sided sequence. If you need an anti-causal system, then the ROC must contain the origin and the system function will be a left sided sequence. Next is, now if you need both stability and causality, all the poles of the system function must be inside the unit circle and the unique x of n can then be found. This is the part, the annular region. This is called the ring region or the annular region. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Yes, and these are the basic formulas of Z transform. The first one, first one is the sequence del of n, the impulse sequence, discrete impulse sequence. Z transform in unique Z transform of a unique impulse function will be very much similar to the Fourier transform. That will be 1. The Z transform of u of n is equal to z of z minus 1, z by z minus 1. The sequence b to the power n, the Z transform of sequence b to the power n is z by z minus b. B to the power n minus 1 into u n minus 1 is 1 by z minus b. Okay, and e to the power 4n is equal to z by z to the z minus this square. The sequence n, Z transform sequence n is z by z minus 1 whole square. The n square is z of z into z plus 1 by z to the z minus 1 whole cube. B to the power n b to the power z by z minus b whole square. E to the power 2n n is z whole to the power z a n z into e to the power square by z minus e square whole to the power square. Okay, so this way the sine a n is sine a z by z square minus z cos a z plus 1. B to the power n sine a n is sine a b z by z square minus 2 cos a b z plus b square. Cos a of n is z minus z cos a by z square minus 2 cos a z plus 1. And b to the power n cos a of n is z into z minus b cos of a by z square minus 2 cos a b z plus b square. These are the Z transform common sequence. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Now we're going to discuss about the properties and theorems of Z transform. The multiplication by a constant, the linearity of the Z transform, multiplication by a suffix a to the power k, shifting theorem, complex translation theorem, initial value theorem, and final value theorem. Okay, so we're going to discuss all this property in the subsequent slides. Now if x of z is a z transform of x of n, then z transform of a into x of n is a into z of x of n, which is equal to a of x of z, where a is a constant. To prove this, note that by definition that z transform of a into x of n is equal to n is equal to 0 to infinite a into x of n into z to the power minus n is equal to a into summation of n is equal to 0 to infinite x of n into z to the power minus n, which is equal to a into x of z. Okay, so we can using the formula we can understand that how it has been performed. So from this we can conclude that the z transform does maintain the linearity property. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, the next one is the linearity of the z transform. The z transform possesses an important property, linearity. This means that if function of n and function of n f of n and g of n are z transformable and alpha and beta are scalars, then x of n formed by a linear combination, which could be written as x of n is equal to a alpha into function of n and plus beta into g of n, has the z transform, the x of z of which is equal to alpha into function of z plus beta into g capital G of z, is basically what is mean that Fourier transform function of n and Fourier transform z transform function of n and z transform of g of n basically provide us this specific formula where function of z and g of z are the z transform of function of n and g of n respectively. Now if x of z is the z transform of x of k, then the z transform of a to the power k into x of n can be given by x of a to the power minus 1 z. Now z transform of a to the power k into x of n is equal to x of a to the power minus 1 z. This can be proved as follows, that z transform of a to the power n x of n can be written as summation of n is equal to 0 to infinite a to the power n into x of n into z to the power minus n. It could be written again as n is equal to 0 to infinite x of n a to the power minus 1 z whole to a to the power minus 1 z whole to the power minus n, which can be written as x of a to the power minus 1 z. Okay, so from this we can write you can easily understood that a specific formula is the multiplication of a to the power k is, now multiplying a to the power k can be written as x of a to the power minus 1 z. Okay, so let's go to the next slide for another property. Okay, and also that could be written here as also called a real in translation theorem. If x of t is equal to 0 for t less than 0 and x of t has the z transform x of z, then z transform of x of t minus nt can be rewritten as z to the power minus n x of z, or z of x of t minus nt can be written as z to the power n x of z minus summation of k is equal to 0 to n to the power minus 1 x of k t into z to the power minus k. Now and n is equal to 0 or a positive integer. Okay, now find the z transform. Another example is find the z transform of a unit step function that are delayed by 1 sampling period and 4 sampling periods respectively as shown in figure A and B. Now these are the problem schematic. Okay, these are the two specific problem schematic. Okay, so let's discuss this. Now using the shifting theorem we have z transform of 1 into t minus capital T is equal to z to the power minus 1 z transform 1 of capital T, it can be written as z to the power minus 1 into 1 by 1 minus z to the power minus 1 is equal to z to the power minus 1 by 1 minus z to the power minus 1. Also z to the power 1 into t minus 4t is equal to z to the power 4 z of 1 by t, which can be written as z to the power minus 4 into 1 by 1 minus z to the power minus 1 is equal to z to the power minus 1 by 1 minus z to the power minus 1. That z minus z to the power minus 1 represents a delay of one sampling period t regardless of the value of t, capital T. Okay. Now another example is obtain the z transform of a function of a is equal to a to the power k minus 1 and 0. Okay. Referring to the equation 2 and 8.18, we have z to the power x of k minus 1 which is equal to z to the power minus 1 x of z. The z transform of a to the power k is z to the power a suffix k, which is equal to 1 by 1 minus a to the power z minus 1. And so we can written as z transform of function of a is z transform of a to the power k minus 1, which is equal to z to the minus 1 by 1 minus a into z to the minus 1, which is equal to z to the minus 1 by 1 minus a to the power z minus 1. Okay, so this is the specific example that we are talking about. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, now the complex translation theorem. Now what is the complex translation theorem is? Now if x of t has z transform of x of z, then the z transform of e to the power minus at xt can be given by x of z e to the power 0t. To prove that, z to the power e to the power x of t can be written as summation of k is equal to 0 to infinite x of k of capital T e to the power minus a k suffix t z to the power minus k, and that can be rewritten here as summation of k is equal to 0 to infinite x of k suffix t into z to the power z into e to the power at into k minus k, and which is equal to x into z e to the power a capital T. Thus we see that replacing z in x of z by z e to the power 0t gives the z transform of e to the power minus at xt. By using the complex translation theorem, obtain the z transform of e to the power minus at sin omega t and e to the power minus at cos omega t respectively. Now we know that z to the z transform of sin omega t is equal to z to the power minus 1 sin omega t by 1 minus 2 into z to the power minus 1 cos omega t plus z to the power minus 2. Using the complex translation theorem, z transform of e to the power minus at sin omega t can be rewritten as e to the power minus a suffix capital T z to the power minus 1 sin omega t by 1 minus 2 e to the power minus a capital T z to the power minus 1 cos omega capital T plus e to the power minus 2 a capital T into z to the power minus 2. And know that z transform of cos omega t is equal to 1 minus z to the minus 1 cos omega t by 1 minus 2 z to the minus 1 cos omega t plus z to the power minus 2. Using the complex translation theorem, we can rewritten here it as z transform e to the power cos omega t can be rewritten as 1 minus e to the power minus a capital T z to the power minus 1 cos omega t by 1 minus 2 e to the power minus a capital T z to the minus 1 cos omega capital T plus e to the power minus 2 at into z to the power minus 2. By if now initial value theorem is if x of t has the z transform of x of z, and if limit x of z is z tends to infinity exists, then the initial value of x of z of x of t or x of k can be given by x of 0 is equal to limit x of z tends to infinite. The initial value theorem is convenient for checking the z transform calculation for possible errors, since x of 0 is usually known as check of the initial value of by limit of z to the minus infinity x of z can easily spot errors in x of z if any exist. Now determine the initial value of x of 0 if the z transform x of t is given by now x of z 1 minus e to the minus t into z to the minus 1. This value can be rewritten as initial value theorem. We find x of 0 is limit z tends to infinity, this specific value is equal to 0. So referring to example, to notice that the x of z was the z transform of x of t is equal to 1 minus e to the minus 2. Thus x of 0 is 0, which agrees with the result obtained earlier. Okay. Okay. Now the final value of x of n, that is the value of x of n as approaches infinity, can be given by limit x of n tends to infinity is equal to limit z tends to 1 minus z to the minus 1 x of z. And with the example you can understand that x of infinite is x of z, one second, x of z is equal to 1 by 1 minus z to the minus 1 minus 1 by 1 minus e to the minus a capital T into z to the minus 1, a greater than 0. By using the final value theorem, we can write that by applying the final value theorem to the given x of z, we obtain x of infinity limit z tends to 1 minus z to the minus 1 x of z, limit z tends to 1 minus z to the minus 1 by 1 minus z minus 1 minus 1 by 1 minus e to the minus a capital T into z to the minus 1, and this could be written as here as this, and which is equal to 1. Okay, so we will going to understand what is the closed loop or feedback control system, which is shown in the figure. Now this is the digital controller of this is the application part. Now, so up to this we have discussed the specific example how we conduct a Z transform. Okay, so throughout we can understand what is the region of convergence, what is the specific importance or significance of existence of region of convergence. Okay, so through which we have understood what the region of convergence is and what is the basic step ahead from discrete time Fourier transform to Z transform, and as well as the step ahead of continuous time Fourier transform to Laplace transform. So using this we can understood how we can go through the specific region of convergence. Now after this we are going to use the this in the application part. We are going to discuss about the application of Z transform with the block diagram representation in the next specific lecture. Okay, so we are going to conclude our specific lecture by saying that the examples and the application of Z transform will be very much important to understand very few advanced technologies where we are going to use, such as this digital controller that you can see in this slide. Okay, so we're going to discuss all this part in the next lectures. Okay, so we are going to conclude here. Thank you very much. In the next lecture we're going to in the next two lectures, basically within the next two lectures we're going to complete or conclude the Z transform, and we'll go jump to the sampling part. Okay, so thank you.